Hopper and Eleven begin their relationship in season 2, and it almost instantly feels like a genuine father and daughter bond. After the events of season 1, Hopper finds Eleven alone in the woods and decides to secretly take care of her instead of handing her over. He moves her into a remote cabin in the woods so she can stay hidden and safe from the world. From the start, Hopper steps naturally into the role of the protective dad who worries constantly and wants to take control of the situation. And Eleven naturally becomes the rebellious teenager who wants freedom, connection, and is just generally curious about the world. Their relationship hits so hard because both of them are already carrying a lot of emotional trauma. Hopper is deeply broken from losing his daughter, Sarah, to cancer, and then watching his marriage fall apart. He even admits, "I just kept going to work, I kept doing my job, but I wasn't really there anymore," which shows how empty he became after her death, and he never really recovered from that. We meet him in season 1 where he is numb, withdrawn and self-destructive in many ways, and now he has taken in Eleven to look after. This trauma spills into their relationship. Eleven has her own traumatic background too. She was raised inside Hawkins' lab by Dr. Brenner and treated more like an experiment than an actual child. She grew up with no parents, no real love, and no sense of normal life or freedom at all. So when Hopper and Eleven end up together, it's really two damaged people trying to build a family, even though neither of them has fully healed. I think it's fair to say Hopper and Eleven are both kind, empathetic, and in the right situation loving people individually. And their relationship from day one was definitely very caring. But because of how they are as people, naturally it creates a lot of clashes between them. Hopper is still grieving from the loss of his daughter, so when he's stepped into the father role, he becomes instantly overprotective. And I think this was because of two main reasons. Partly because of the background of Eleven and the fact that people are still probably going to be out there looking for her. And secondly, because the idea of him losing another child or family member is just too unbearable for him. And to be fair, both of his fears aren't irrational. The government and multiple other people could be looking for Eleven, so keeping her hidden is a real safety issue. I don't think Hopper took Eleven in to fill that void or to get a replacement for her daughter by any means. I think part of it was just seeing Eleven and feeling sorry for her and just generally wanting to do the right thing. We know Hopper as a character is a caring person and he will put others before himself and he will take the extra step to look after people. So when Hopper's putting these rules in instantly, like Elle can't leave the cabin, Eleven instantly feels suffocated. She's growing up in Hawkins' lab where she was basically being held hostage and being experimented on. So now she's broken free, even though that living with Hopper is going to be much better than being in Hawkins' lab. There's still a sense of she feels trapped as Hopper won't even let her leave the cabin. Because she's still young, she probably doesn't fully understand Hopper's decisions and why he's putting these strict rules in place. And because of her nature, naturally she just rebels against him, which causes clashes between the two. Ultimately, Eleven isn't really used to any grounded parent. The closest thing she's had to a parent is Dr. Brenner, who definitely did more harm than good to her. So she doesn't always recognise Hopper's behaviour as being caring. The tension eventually leads to Eleven running away from home in season 2, where she's in this rebellious mode. She does return and she never runs away from Hopper again. And I feel like this was a learning curve for Eleven where she got to see the outside world a bit but realised living with Hopper is where her home is essentially. Their relationship definitely improved when she returned, but they did still clash in later seasons. However, despite them clashing, this tension doesn't necessarily define their whole relationship. There is a lot of love between them two, and you can see they do generally care about each other. There is an emotional connection, and I think their relationship does work well together. In season 3, it gets a bit more complicated because Eleven's grown up and she's actually in a relationship with Mike now. Hopper reacts how any normal parent would and becomes a bit wary of this relationship. He's very protective over Elle and doesn't want Mike to hurt her or take her away or guide her down any wrong paths. Obviously Mike's a good kid, so I think at this point Hopper knows that and he's just been overprotective of Elle. Hopper doesn't really know how to communicate his fears or whatever he's thinking to Elle, and even if he did, I'm not entirely sure Elle would take this in because she's so young and she's kind of excited to be in her first relationship. Ultimately this leads to a few arguments between them, but things change in season 4 when Elle believes Hopper to be dead when he's actually captured by Russians. This forces them to take time apart from each other. It makes them confront how important they are to each other. And when they're finally reunited at the end of season 4, There's a real sense that both of them now fully understand how much they mean to each other, and you can just feel their love and connection strengthen. In season 5, the stakes are really high, and obviously Vecna's threatening to kill everyone. Hopper's constantly putting himself in danger by travelling to the Upside Down, and we find out later that he was even considering sacrificing himself in order to stop Vecna and protect everyone. This is a constant theme throughout the show where both Hopper and Eleven are willing to sacrifice themselves to protect each other and their surrounding friends. At this stage though, Elle's determined on getting revenge and killing Vecna, but Hopper's holding her back and doesn't want her getting too involved. He doesn't want her to be in the Upside Down fighting or putting himself in risk anyway. And we see this as an example where Elle's training in the first episode. Hopper's lying to her about how well she's doing, just so she doesn't feel confident enough to go up against Vecna one-on-one. We know in theory Vecna is probably stronger than Eleven if they're just fighting one-on-one, so Hopper's worries are valid. When they finally get in the Upside Down together, it's the same situation of they're fighting against bad guys. Hopper's really trying to protect Eleven, but Eleven's constantly putting herself at the forefront of danger. I felt like the series was leading up to one of them sacrificing themselves in the finale, and we actually see this with Elle giving her life to save all her family and friends. Ultimately, this was Hopper's worst nightmare. Eleven sacrificing herself, as he tried everything in his power to stop this, even sacrificing his own life. As much as we think this would have broken Hopper fully, we flick to 18 months down the line and he actually seems in a much better place and seems to have accepted the fact that Elle sacrificed herself. I think because he had the same mindset of he wanted to do the same thing as her, he can probably accept that from her a lot more. Also, he does have Joyce as well, which I think probably really helped him, as he still has that sense of family surrounding him. He's also got a lot of friends now and almost has a fresh start with his life. I think ultimately throughout the 5 seasons, Hopper and Elle were the 2 main characters for me, and were the 2 characters that kept putting themselves in danger and kept wanting to go head on towards the bad guys even if they were outnumbered. So I wasn't surprised when we saw one of them die in the end. From Eleven's perspective, she's sacrificing herself, not just for Hopper but all her friends and family, showing just how much she cares for all of them.